Society Matters.
Hello and welcome to Ordinary Heroes here on HMTV at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. Thank you so much for joining us. I have an incredible individual, a person with an incredible heart, but a hero as far as I'm concerned. He's an ordinary hero, but a really special hero, and he's done amazing things, and he still is with young people here in the community as well as veterans. And we're going to talk to him about the things that he does. I'd like to welcome Fred Nielsen. Thank you, Fred, for joining me today.
Bernie, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You're quite an accomplished individual, and I know you're still doing more. You're just an amazing person. You really get a kick out of working with people, right? You're a people person, that's for sure.
Well, that is true, Bernie. I find that at this point in my life, it is no longer about acquiring. It's about giving. And that's where the joy, the spice, the variety, the diversity of life comes from for me.
That makes you a hero as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you, Bernie.
Just the wanting to give others and helping them through their adversities and challenges in life is a wonderful thing. You were in the military, and thank you so much for your service.
Yes, Bernie, I was, and thank you for acknowledging that. I was in the military, in the Marine Corps, for a long time, a very good time, but a very long time.
And sometime between 1965 and 1968, correct? You volunteered to participate in the Vietnam War. What made you think, or what was going on in your mind? What was the reason why you felt that it was an obligation to participate in this war?
In my family, we have had participants in every war that I could think of, either on my mother's side or on my father's side. And most colorfully and most recently, for my childhood, we had Uncle Bobby. Uncle Bobby was a Marine. Part of Uncle Bobby's fascination for me was that because of his injuries, he had a metal plate in his brain to protect, or in his skull to protect his brain. That, for me, in the imagination of a youngster, that was epic. And so he was very present in my mind at the time that I was leaving high school and wondering, what's next? And in the world affairs, war is what was next. And I'd had an appreciation that most generations have their war. And my war was shaping up. And I wanted to be part of it, not because I'm a warmonger, but because every generation has their opportunity to contribute to keeping the Constitution of the United States. And I felt that was my opportunity to serve.
That's quite a legacy that your family has, including yourself, to uphold the Constitution, to protect it, to protect this country. Protect the democracy. It's a beautiful thing. Well, how did you keep your sanity in a time of war? It's not easy. It's very traumatic. The things that you see. What kept you going? What was it that kept you going?
You know, that's a searching and very fair question, Bernie. And I can't claim any special discipline beyond two things that were core to how I processed and experienced that time. First, it was the Marine Corps training. We are trained not to engage with our emotional truth in the moment, but to save that for a later time. Mm-hmm. So we're trained to push our emotions down, down, down into our left ankle.
I see.
And then we wear tight socks.
Yeah.
But, and so we respond to the moment, whatever that moment might be, according to our training. The training is intense, it's dependable, it serves us well. The other factor that helped me get through those years and remained who Fred Nielsen was, and that was a person I didn't even know yet. I was still becoming that. But I honestly went into a very severe reality, very extreme reality, with a blessed naivety. And so it was that most of the greatest examples of extreme inhumanity, the violence, the confusion, the chaos, the mayhem, the injustice, it kind of bounced off. It didn't come inside of me. If it did, it would have remade me in the consequence of war. I came out of war without having that consequence. Still, I have PTSD. Mine is not what you see. I carry PTSD. I know how it affects me, what my limitations are. But the horror that war is did not become a part of me because of naivety.
How does this type of service impact your humanity while you're fighting and when you come home? How has it impacted your humanity? In what way?
In the Marine Corps, we are taught that we're not thinking of ourselves when we're in combat. We're thinking about our fellow Marine. Mm-hmm. We've got one another's back. So I know I don't have to worry about me because he is worrying about me. My job is to worry about them and to get the mission done. Well, that is part and parcel to the Marine Corps philosophy, not just the Marine Corps, but because the Marine Corps was my experience, that's what I'll talk about. The other thing is that when we step forward in AFES, which is the Armed Forces Examination and Evaluation System, we take a lot of tests, we take a lot of shots, and it's, at the end of it all, we take a really important oath. And that oath is not to a president. He's not to the top general in the Marine Corps, whom we call the commandant. Mm-hmm. It is to that Constitution.
And the flag, right?
No.
Oh, to the Constitution. Just the Constitution.
The flag is a symbol of the Constitution.
Yes, of course.
The oath is just to the Constitution. And so it is. It has become my belief that in taking that oath, it's a very solemn moment, always entered into with a great care by the people administering it, mm-hmm. because they tell us something new is going to happen in you because of this. Mm-hmm. Truly, in the taking of the Constitution and then the living out of whatever our enlistment time may require of us, those two factors rewire our thinking, our being. Our prime directive becomes one of service to others. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not to say that a Marine veteran cannot be an entrepreneur. Certainly that can happen. But the first action is that of serving others. That gains punctuation and resolution in a combat situation, mm-hmm. because it means it tests the intention of the oath to being faced with mortal consequence. Mm-hmm. So I actually put my life, my body, my blood, my bone behind that signature. And so that reinforces the whole programming. So we come out, and after we serve in the military, we have to become volunteer firemen. We've got to serve on the police force. Right. We've got, and all the things that you see veterans, even veterans who are broken physically, mm-hmm. and to some degree, like all of us, broken mentally, we continue to look for ways to serve.
To serve.
And that is the consequence, as your question was, what was the consequence of all that? Yeah. Well, that's the consequence.
I understand now. You have a new purpose after something like that. You know, many of the Marines that were in your platoon and group came from different walks of life, different parts of America, right? Different walks of life, some of which may have had prejudices before time. What happened when they all came together? Did you see that melt away?
Not always. The coming together is the consequence of facing a common challenge. Now, just a challenge being present and impacting all people in the group does not make it present. What makes it present is when I accept that and you accept it in a similar way. So we can be divergent in the way that we accept the challenge, but to the degree that we accept the challenge in a really similar way, that unites to a sufficient degree our intentions, our focuses, so that all other individual preferences and prejudices fall away. So we then become united in purpose. In the Marine Corps, we call that esprit de corps.
Esprit de corps.
French reference.
For the spirit of the corps.
The spirit of the group.
Of the group.
Of being together.
Yeah, that's great. You lost your brother, Carl.
I did.
And I'm sorry about that. You stayed in the Marines. You extended your service to protect him.
In the Marine Corps, well, in all services, in a time of war, there's a principle called sole surviving son. Mm-hmm. Recognizing the importance that a family wants to have its name perpetuated and continue, that's protected under the status of sole surviving son. So while I was in Vietnam, my younger brother was the sole surviving son that I chose then to protect because I knew he wanted to join the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And I know he was really eager to go to Vietnam. Mm-hmm. He would absolutely have been given that opportunity, except for the fact that, oh, you have a brother in Vietnam. You cannot go. And that was a status I intended to sustain for as long as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. So I kept extending. None of the people in my unit who were present when I left were present when I came. Mm-hmm. I outlived, you might say, outstayed all of the others. Officers, staff NCOs, and regular enlisted people. I stayed longer than all of them.
That's a major loss.
It was, for me, a major loss. A very dear younger brother with so much. I have a respect for my own gifts and talents, my own intelligence, but my brother far, far exceeded that. But he did eventually, as soon as my commanding officer said, Nielsen, if you put in another request, I will not only deny it, but I'll process you out of the Marine Corps for Section 8. You are crazy. So I was not allowed to extend longer. Within 3 months of my having left country, my brother had come to Vietnam and was deceased. He was killed in action. So I got a call from Headquarters Marine Corps. I was given the opportunity, a very rare and, well, it's a mixed blessing. You want to be there for your family. I was able to be there for my family in a special way of being a body escort. So I was able to bring my brother from Dover, Maryland, to Florida for the funeral. It gave very special dimensions of grief. We all grieve in different, very individual ways. In this case, my grief took the very present role of protector. I did not want anyone to be around my brother's body if I was not present. But that, how can I be there 24/7? Fortunately, the funeral home was cooperative, and they assured me they would not allow anyone to be there if I was not present. So I was able to get rest and that sort of thing. But I was interested that my grief took the shape of protectiveness. Only after that could I grieve in the personal way. Mm-hmm. But I had to be a Marine, and so I was this protective older brother Marine. Mm-hmm. And I took all my Marine Corps vehemence into that role, and I was very, very proactive about I would not allow anyone to touch him except his mother. Mm-hmm. No one else could do that. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great loss, and it took me a long time to process that loss.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry it went through all of that.
His name was Magnus Carl Nielsen. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. You consider yourself, at least I consider you, and you consider other living veterans, living history.
Oh, I do, yes.
That's your philosophy. How do you implement that in the programs that you're involved with?
bringing other people's awareness, whether they are adults in a very, very special way, elected officials, to the awareness that veterans are not a special voter bloc that they're to woo. They may, in fact, function that way at a certain time for certain elected officials who really are committed to benefiting veterans. But first, veterans are living history to be valued and appreciated, to be treasured in that respect. And so it is for adults. I find a lot of different ways to bring them to that awareness, which is not about teaching. It's not about preaching to them. It is teaching in a way that allows them to visit in an appreciative way the history of this particular individual before that person was a veteran. Mm-hmm. They were first a person, a citizen, right. And then they had their whole military experience. And the composite of that is the person that the elected official can appreciate today. And in Glen Cove, we are very fortunate to have some individuals whose journey has been expressed in ways that inspire other people. And in my appreciation, that is what makes a regular worthy individual heroic. And it is the way they respond to the challenges that they face. And among those, Ben Farnan, a remarkable Army veteran who has served in so many ways. He was an educator. His knowledge of Glen Cove, Glen Cove's people, Glen Cove's veterans in particular. But Ben played football with some remarkable Glen Covers. You see the building, the Samuel L. Pierce building.
Right. I've seen that many times.
So Ben Farnan played football with him.
Oh.
And his brother, Bernie Furshpan. I've got you in my mind. But there's another Pierce brother who was remarkable in his own way. He became a historian, an author. So Ben is aware of these people and raises them to appreciation. He is articulate. He's one of the persons I would definitely interview, and should I have the opportunity here. But beyond that, someone who's with us today and lives, he came back to serve as an officer at the Supreme Court, and Tony Jimenez. And it is not my freedom at this point to tell a lot about Tony's story, except to say that among those who are living veterans in the veteran community of Glen Cove, we all know Tony, his journey, how demanding it's been, and the absolute high sense of service to the community that he brings in spite of remarkable reasons not to. Mm-hmm. He presses on with that sense of service.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's quite impressive. You are very much involved in parades and ceremonies. When you left the military, what was your rank at that time, and has it been upgraded since?
When I retired from the Marine Corps, I was a major in the regular Marine Corps forces. So I'm not a reserve officer. So once I retired, that was the end of my military career, and so the end of any advancement. There are opportunities in the Reserve Marine Corps, that wasn't my experience, to continue gaining rank in the reserve status. But
so you were a major?
Yes.
Is it major lieutenant or just a major? Sergeant? Is it a major? Major what?
We have really remarkable wordplay in our ranks. We have major generals, lieutenant generals, second lieutenants, sergeants major, and that is certainly confusing. And it was to me on active duty in the Marine Corps, trying to discern all that, and then the symbols for the ranks. My gosh, what a major undertaking! Oh, major,
no pun intended.
No pun. What a confusing undertaking it was, and it requires conscious effort on my part today. In my case, I was an officer pay grade 04, which is major. Nothing goes with it. It is the first level of a field grade officer.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Third grade.
First grade. First level of field grade officer.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. Wow. It's complex in my mind. It's hard for me to wrap my head around all these ranks.
Yes.
But you're involved now very much with ceremonies and parades, and you want to somehow impact the young people. In what way are you trying to influence them?
What happens with the development of young people is when we give them something that's just 3 steps out of their comfort zone, they can believe that they can do it. And when it is of high purpose, the best parts of themselves are reaching for that greater challenge. And so it is, almost all young people, boys and girls, have a regard for the military. Even if they're in a family that has strong ideas about war and avoidance of war. Almost everyone has an appreciation for the military. And so it is that when we bring ceremonial standards that are reflective of military standards into engagement with young people, a very important, very special part of themselves respond to that. And so what happens is they discover, yes, I can do this because I want to. And because Major Nielsen convinced me that it was important. And so they gain confidence in their growth and their capacity. And so they understand experientially, it's not the same as instant gratification. They have to work for weeks and sometimes months in preparation for a ceremony. And then when it happens, they see the effect, the impact on other people. And they say, I did that. So helping youngsters understand the sublime importance of first person singular, taking responsibility for what I think and what actions I take impacts others in a way that I want to repeat.
That's a great mission on your part, and I commend you for that. I only have time for like one more talking point,
Yes.
but this is important.
Sure.
A lot of veterans have PTSD, like yourself, as you claimed. Some of them, it impacted them in terrible ways.
Yes.
Many of them are homeless.
Yes.
I know you're involved somehow, some way with this group of veterans, and tell us what you're trying to do. What are you trying to accomplish?
The first thing is a standard of conduct on my part as regards veterans and bringing other people to the awareness of veterans in crisis. Mm-hmm. It is that while veterans in crisis certainly represent a need, the veterans are not well served when others take the veteran on as today's favorite charity. A famous Marine Corps general held forward the idea, yes, veterans deserve a hand up. Veterans do not want a handout. Tremendous importance behind that saying. So the first thing is whatever I think I might want to do with the intention to benefit veterans must comply with that. I must extend empowerment. I must extend respect. And then I can proceed with a variety of things we might do.
One very personal question.
Sure.
What keeps you up at night?
The belief that as I get older, my mental function will be affected by PTSD and other influences, so that whatever good intention I might have, if I see that intention through a mind that's a little bit broken, what would be the consequence? There's never a doubt of my sincerity, but sincerity of intent is not the measure of impact. So I can intend all kinds of good. That's why I have to have collected principles by which I measure what do I do, and is this really going to bring empowerment? Is it going to bring respect? So that's what keeps me up.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. You're an incredible individual. You are totally, in my mind, a hero beyond. You contribute so much to society. You impact veterans. You impact young people. I'm just excited to hear more about your upcoming projects, whatever they may be. So thank you so much for joining me today. Major Fred Nielsen.
Bernie, thank you for what you do here at HMTV. I think it's a wonderful project. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thanks all for joining us today.